my talk this evening. I've titled this, You Always Had It, You Just Didn't Know. I plucked a bit from the New Yorker magazine, February 19th, 2017, a book review of Elizabeth Kolbert's Why Facts Don't Change Our Minds. 1975, not really that long ago, Stanford University did a study. Many followed up on that. In the study, students were split into two groups. Is it? Okay, I thought it was close enough, sorry. So in 1975, truly not that long ago, Stanford University did a study. Many followed up on it. The study students were broken up into two groups. Group number one was given detailed information about firefighters. Let's call them Frank and George. The info included the men's responses on what the researchers called risky-conservative choice tests. Students were told that Frank was a successful firefighter who on the test usually went with the safest option. Group number two was told basically the same thing, slightly modified bio. Frank always chose the safest option, but he was a lousy firefighter and had in fact been written up on report numerous times. Now, midway through the study, these students in group two were informed, hey, we've lied to you. Everything we just told you about the reports, 100% false. Forget about it. Students were then later asked to describe their beliefs. How would a successful firefighter handle risk? They would go back to group one. They thought a good firefighter would avoid risk. Group number two thought they would embrace it. So again, they tried to wipe out the misinformation, but it stuck. The researchers saw that even though evidence for the beliefs was fully refuted, people failed to make appropriate revisions in those beliefs. But no matter what, typically it was the case, they hung on to it. Just that little bit. No punishment, no coercion. These Stanford studies became famous. Many subsequent folks did similar experiments and followed in the findings. The research showed that any graduate student in a white coat with a clipboard can demonstrate how seemingly reasonable people can become totally, call it irrational. We find many are simply locked into a mindset, an idea they've heard, but never actually questioned or explored. They seem to have invited someone to, shall we say, tie anchors to their minds. The article included a very appropriate illustration by Gerard with the title, George Du Bois. The title given to this is The Vaunted Human Capacity for Reason May Have More to Do with Winning Arguments than Thinking Straight. We've heard that before. We've all seen this in action, maybe in politics, maybe even in ourselves. Hey, just ask our resident farmers, the Martins, I guess. Okay, I know they would say this, so believe it. Experts are telling you, everyone who eats broccoli is good. Just think about it and say when. We'll come back and quiz you on that later. So what are we here to explore this weekend? Preterism. What does it actually mean in the kingdom and in the world today? Many who will call you a heretic make it clear that preterism is a new heresy slipping into the modern church. Often with a little exploration, they find justification for it. Wait, maybe it's a sign of the end of days. I won't waste your time by quoting some of the local churches who will call us out, should we even dare to think about stepping into their building tomorrow. But let's go a little further back. In fact, many would hold that preterism is in fact kind of new, and many would go back to a book by English preacher James Stuart Russell, 1816 to 1895. His book, The Parousia, was published in 1878. It explained the second coming of Christ, Judgment Day, etc., were not future events at the end of a current dispensation. He saw biblical prophecies as fulfilled with AD 70's fall of Jerusalem. Therefore, no future second coming. He saw the last judgment, the end of the world the Jews knew. That globe over here was not the world they had any vision of. That happened 2,000 years ago with Jerusalem's destruction. Their world fell. Now let's step back a little bit further. We've all heard of in 1517, a monk, Martin Luther. He brought about the Protestant Reformation, challenging Catholic teachings. I'm going to jump forward a little bit instead of back. 1614, a Jesuit named Luis de Alcazar published Preterist Exposition of Prophecy. Then, in 1845, Moses Stewart said Alcazar's preterist interpretation helped the Roman Catholic Church with its arguments with the Protestants. Even more recently, in 2000, Kenneth Newport wrote an eschatological commentary describing preterism as a Catholic defense against the Protestant historicist view, which was identifying the Roman Catholic Church as persecuting apostasy. So the Roman Catholic Church invented preterism. Okay. I'm going to dodge back a bit further. Okay, let's go back to 1610 AD and Islam's founding. Timing is seen as a primary fault that had seeped deeply into Christianity. Christians are said to have corrupted the New Testament with a promised soon return being delayed. So God brought another prophet. I'm going to mess up some of these pronunciations please forgive me if you speak really good Arabic. Sahibir Alai is a Canadian Islamic preacher and apologist. He serves as president of the Islamic Information and Dawah Center of the Internationale in Toronto. He said, Matthew 10:23, 16:28, and 24:34 speak clearly of Christ returning with a lifetime of his disciples, saying, well, it clearly didn't happen. So you guys got a problem. From a recent post on a webpage called Islam Questions and Answers, I paraphrase the answer of, again, give my best shot, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah said in Al-Jawab al-Shaheen 3:21, give my best shot. He says, with regards to the Gospels, Christians have four: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. All agree Luke and Mark never saw Jesus. Only Matthew and John did. The Gospels were written after Jesus was taken up into heaven. None said that these were the words of God, or that Jesus had conveyed them to them from God. Rather narrated some of Jesus' words, deeds, and miracles. Here's a bit of a kick. During this time, the gospel had been revealed from Allah. Most of it disappeared. Only a few verses Allah preserved as proof against them and to refute them. When Emperor Constantine became a Christian, the Christians started to practice their religion openly. He goes on to say that any religion practiced in secret with fear of the sword finds it virtually impossible for things to be transmitted soundly through various chains of narrators, and its followers cannot prevent it from being distorted. I close that quote. So there's nothing to be trusted in the New Testament. It's been so corrupted. I'm going to jump back a little bit further. Let's jump back to the church fathers, learned folks who I'm sure any one of us would love to spend this time tonight and have them present their thoughts, have a chat. I'm just going to go to a couple of quotes free. There are many more I could go to. Picking up here with the very end of a page-long paragraph. If there is neither king nor vision, but from then forth all prophecy is sealed, and the city and temple taken, then why are they, Jews, so irreligious and so wicked as to see what has happened and yet deny Christ, who has brought it all to pass? That was Edithias, 293 to 373, from his book, The Incarnation of the Word, chapter 39. I'll give you all. Another one. It is fitting to add to their accounts the true predictions of our Savior, in which he foretold these very events, that is, Jerusalem's destructions. His words are as follows: woe unto them who are with child, and them give suck in those days. Pray that you flight not be in winter, neither on the Sabbath day. There will be great tribulation, such as was not seen since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor shall ever be. That was Eusebius, AD 260 to 340, from his book Church History, book 3, chapter 7, section 1. One more from a church father. After the exodus from Jerusalem, all the disciples went to live in Pella, because Christ told them to leave Jerusalem and to go away, since it would undergo a siege. Because of this advice, they lived in terror after moving to that place, as I said. This was Ephanias 310 to 403, Paria, book 1, chapter 9, section 7. I'm going to move to a lot more recent. This is from a blog post by the Providence Christian Church. It was posted on February 15th, 2022. He goes on to say, the early church was rarely unanimous on theology, especially eschatology. One of the common views among the most prolific church fathers was preterism, the teaching that most biblical prophecies were fulfilled by the end of the first century. That includes Matthew 24, Zechariah 14, Daniel 9, Revelation 13. These prominent teachers included Athanasius, Jerome, and Ephanias, who taught that these texts were fulfilled by the cruelty of Nero, the desolation of the temple by Titus, and the destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans, AD 64 to 70. Therefore, preterism is an historically viable eschatological position. In fact, rivaling futurism for the most impressive historical pedigree. Sola Deo Gloria. I am asking you to sit with me here, and we're going to do a scene from a movie. A scene from the movie Heaven Almighty. In it, we're going to hear God, Morgan Freeman. Just a reminder of the title that I gave you. You always had it, you just didn't know. But you're able to hit the lights. Before you hit the lights. Sorry. We forgot the friction rewire. Just shy of 2 minutes. Okay, thank you. Didn't think of everything. 1 second here. Just in time. Oh, my apology. We forgot about meeting the speaker. So, I've said it twice over this event. It's great when technology works. That's right.
Excuse me. Are you all right? Yeah. No, it's a long story.
Well, I'm considered a bit of a storyteller myself.
My husband, you heard of New York's Noah?
The guy who built the ark. I love that story. Knowing the ark. You know, a lot of people miss the point of that story. They think it's about God's wrath, anger. They love it when God is angry.
What is the story about then, the ark?
Well, I think it's a love story about believing in each other. You know, the animals showed up parents. They stood by each other, side by side. Just like Noah and his family. Everybody entered the ark, side by side.
Well, my husband says God told him to do it. What do you do with that?
Sounds like an opportunity. Let me ask you something. If someone prays for patience, you think God gives them patience? Or does he give them the opportunity to be patient? If it prays for courage, does God give them courage, or does he give them opportunity to be courageous? If someone prays for the family to be courageous, do you think God sends them with warm, fuzzy feelings? Or does he give them opportunities to love each other? A lot of people serve it, enjoy it.
Okay, you always have it. Continuing with that again, the point of the clip is you have the capacity, you have it within you the whole time. God gives you opportunities to find it, and that's what we certainly hope we find here tonight. I could go deep into all those scriptures that so many of us know very well to give you more proofs, but I'm preaching to the choir. So I'm going to close with a couple of quotes from a highly exalted source. One that I'm sure we've all used. Let's maybe go back to our college days, cramming for an exam. They specialize in wrapping things up in a really concise and effective manner. So I'm going to flip to these highly esteemed folks. But if you haven't looked, listen. From Cliff Notes on the Bible, from their section on general understandings, I quote, "The remaining portions of the New Testament, although concerned primarily with specific problems and situations, and nonetheless reflect the generally accepted beliefs concerning Jesus that were currently among the Christians at the time. Written accounts of what Jesus did during the course of his life are not considered necessary by the earliest Christians. Why? They believed that Jesus would return to earth in the very near future and establish the Messianic kingdom." There's more, but I'll leave the record there. From Cliff Notes again, specifically on Revelation. Under these conditions, the Revelation of John was written, and they describe some of the calamities. It would be difficult to imagine anything more appropriate for the members of Christian churches at the time. They needed encouragement and the assurance that their trials would soon be over, that the evil powers of the earth would be destroyed, and that the triumph of righteousness would be established in the world. The message of Revelation was intended for this particular time and set of circumstances. Christians familiar with the older apocalyptic writings would understand the book's symbolism. For practically everything John said to his contemporaries was said before to people who suffered under similar circumstances. It is a mistake to suppose that John was predicting events that would take place in the later centuries of Christian history, writing to the people of his own day about events that would happen while they were still living. He states that Christ will return while those who put him to death on the cross are in fact. The permanent significance of Revelation lies in the author's conviction that right will ultimately triumph over evil. And that's the quote is closed. just a little more. Again, my focus has been to show that you as a preterist need not feel lost, need not feel alone. You simply have to break through a trapped mindset. And by allowing ourselves to trust God's word, we will find a solution to the futurist quagmire a lot of folks have described it. This has always been right there. I hope and pray that my talk has been helpful, not too boring. And got one more thing to take care of. Now that we've accomplished our good work, it's flying. So we can remove the anchors I spoke of earlier. Now we can see the light. Thank you.